Welcome from the NSM podcast. In this week, we are going to discuss UV radiation has in Myanmar. This week podcast features two CRI students who has experience and are familiar with UV radiation. So they are also here with me now. So let me call out my friend Sunanatas. Can you briefly introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Sunanata. I'm here with my friends to make a podcast about UV radiations. Thank you.
Yes. And also, how about Nuber?
Hello everyone, this is Nover and I will be a part of this podcast about the UV radiation in Myanmar.
Okay. Thank you, Nuber. Thank you, Sunanatan. Let's start our podcast. Do you ever get scared of going out in summer? According to the data from the government officials, last summer, we faced extremely high temperature in Myanmar. We cannot deny that there was a rise in temperature due to climate change, and the risk of UV radiation have also become a topic of concern nowadays. So, with such a high UV index, just 15 minutes of exposure to the sun can cause skin damage and other skin diseases. Today, we will let you hear some of the CRI students discuss these issues in Myanmar. So, firstly, let's start the discussion on this topic with Masunanate. Can you explain about UV radiation? So, what is UV? Ultraviolet radiation. So, had you ever heard about that? And can you explain a little bit?
What is ultraviolet radiations? That radiation is a foul non-ionizing radiation that's really emitted by the sun. We know that it has some benefits for people, like especially it can create vitamin D, but it also can cause health issues if we have high UV radiation exposure. So before we know ultraviolet radiation, so uh, we need to know like UV index. So what is UV index? So in Myanmar, especially UV index is really high. But what kind of measurements can we say that is whether it's high or low? So UV index is about the measurements of for external ultraviolet UV radiation from the sun. So it really helps us to understand how much sun exposure is safe. So as we know, like if we have level CO2 3, so it's kind of safe for most people. So it's really low UV radiation. But if we have 46, we call it yellow level. So it's really kind of moderate UV radiation, but it needs to take some precaution like wearing sunscreen to go outside. So when we have level 7 to 9, we say that like it's really high UV radiation. It's a orange level. So it's important to protect your skin and eyes. So when we have red level, it's 9 to 11. It's very high radiations, and the level is very dangerous for your health. So extreme level, like 11 and above, I think, including Myanmar, so we face extreme UV radiation, especially like at 11 and above. So it's really extremely high, and we should avoid being outside for long periods. Uh,
Yes, Masunanate. So, you mentioned about the levels of radiation, right? So, it has a different level, like green level, yellow level, orange, and red, and extreme level, right? So, uh, what kind of factor make UV radiation, like particularly in Myanmar?
mm, yeah. Before Myanmar, we now facing climate change globally, and also, as we know, we now face high temperature, especially in Myanmar, and I think Myanmar is one of the underdeveloped country, so it's really face a lot of like high temperature. So before we explain about UV radiation, we have ozone layer. That is our natural sheet against UV radiation, so it can more or less protect us. But when we have high temperature, ozone layer is getting thinner. So if the layer is getting thinner, most of the tropical regions like Myanmar also face more UV radiations and also greenhouse gases. So if we have less ozone, more radiation reach our Earth surface. So it can increase UV intense. So for Myanmar, so we face UV index 11 and above. So it's really extremely high, and in summer, like mostly Myanmar is really close to equator, so they impact negatively a lot. Because when we have summer, it's really high temperature, and we need to consider and check UV index regularly before going outside, and also it's more important to protect ourselves from UV high exposure. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Masun and Atat. So, now I'd like to ask to Nova. So, how do you think, Nova? Like, what are some more consequences of UV radiation? Like, sun exposure in Myanmar. Like, what are the most extreme effect of UV radiation? Can you explain a little bit about that?
Okay. You mean the extreme effect of UV radiation?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in this part, I will explain two extreme effect of UV radiation. Firstly, it can increase skin damage and risks of skin cancer. As UV radiation level increase, it means the risk of skin damage and skin cancer also rises. So in Myanmar, especially in the areas of Mandalay, Monra, and Magway, where the temperature reaches to, in the last year, it reaches to 45 degrees Celsius, and the UV index exceeded 12, which means also Masunat had mentioned that extreme level of UV index 11 plus, but in Myanmar we have faced exceeded 12 plus UV index. It's really dangerous for the Myanmar people, but there are no advocacy or news article about the hiding UV interest and the dangerous precautions about that. So this is the context which has happened in the last year in April 2023. So how would it happen to the people in Myanmar? So extreme in high temperature and UV radiations, and it can cause a higher risk of skin cancer, eye damage, and heat-related illness. So people in Myanmar, they are not really aware of these risks, and many people spend hours of their time outdoors and aware of the long-term consequences of skin exposure to such a UV radiation. So what are the main areas that have been affected? So the UV radiation mostly affected on the individuals, in Myanmar, we have farmers, construction workers, and even students who are directly going and commuting under the same phase, and they have the greater risk of exposure to this kind of UV radiation. So the second effect is disrupting of the local ecosystem. like UV radiation also like negatively impact on the environment, including agriculture and aquatic ecosystem. In Myanmar, mostly in rural area, like where agriculture and fishing are the most major livelihood of the rural areas, and the UV radiation can also affect these kind of like essential plants, and at the end it can lead to crop failure for the farmers, and also declining aquatic population and fish population. So it was directly disrupting the local ecosystem and the ecosystem balance. And moreover, like in area data, and this kind of area river regions, the zone, the millions of people are relying on the aquatic food and chains and biodiversity for their economy. And also these kind of areas are being affected economically and also on the people at that region. Yeah, this is what I want to mention in the consequences of UV radiation part.
So thank you, Nuba. And I'm interested about that. Like, Masuna has already mentioned, like, the equator line is crossing Myanmar, right? So, and also like that's why in Myanmar, like the temperature is high, especially in summer, right? So, and also in Myanmar people, like they are going to go to the outside for their livelihood. So, especially even in summer, right? So,
Yeah.
for those people, like how can they protect themselves from such kind of radiation? Like, so can you recommend some of the solution for that people?
Yeah, of course. Like, when we are thinking about like protecting ourselves from UV rays, you guys might think of it is very difficult and not easier than you think, but like it's much easier than you suppose, because like there are I will mention only 3 steps that you can follow. Firstly, I think already mentioned in the same point, like check the UV index, especially from your. It's really easy to check your mobile phone. There is a weather report apps and like the kind of application. You can check the weather forecast about the intensity of UV violet rays and also high temperature in current situation. And also, like the second step is seek shade, which is mean, if possible, please stay in shade, and especially during the peak sun hours. In Myanmar, like the peak sun hours is between 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., where the UV radiation and UV radiation are most strongest. And also the third one is wear sunscreen. In the rural area, like Myanmar people didn't usually wear sunscreen, but we wear the nakha as our culture. I would definitely recommend this and to apply the nakha. It can also protect us from sun, high temperature, and also UV radiation. So for the other people who don't want to use the nakha, you can also use sunscreen. Like please use SPF 50 PA plus sunscreen. Like it can only protect you from sunlight. And this is all I want to mention. And plus one thing is like be hydrated yourself. It's really important to stay away from these heat stroke and this kind of UV radiation. So this all I want to mention. And as a last, please stay safe and stay hydrated in the coming summer.
Yes, thank you, Nova, and also thank you, Masun and Natef, for your excellent answer. You have been listening to the news about climate change and UV radiation has happening around in Myanmar. I will be back with more interesting topics in the next podcast. And the summer is around the corner, so I hope everyone is well and healthy. Thank you.